Hey guys, today I'm going to have you doing the 8.1 activities before we start our 8.1 lesson tomorrow. And I wanted to give you a little bit more instruction on this than I normally would because it requires you to measure, and I wasn't sure what tools you had, and I thought this was kind of a confusing activity, so I thought I would give you a little bit more background. So the first thing I want you to do is measure the perimeter of the large square in millimeters. So rather than measuring the large square, I'm giving you the measurement of the side of the large square. So the side of the large square measures 35 millimeters. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that right now. It's asking you to measure the perimeter of the large square, which is the distance around the outside. It's all four sides. So to find the perimeter of those, you would do 35 4 times or 35 times 4. Okay, so I'm not going to write the answer to that yet. It's also asking you to measure the diameter. I'll do this in green. Measure the diameter of the circle. Now the diameter, as you saw hopefully in the beginning of your activity page, the diameter is the distance across the middle. And I'm telling you right now that the diameter of that square is also 35 millimeters. Notice that distance is exactly the same as that distance. And then it's also asking you to find the perimeter of the small square in millimeters. I'm giving you the measurement of the small square. It's 25 millimeters on one side. And remember, the perimeter is the distance around the entire outside, so you can do the measure of one side times 4 sides. And again, I'm not going to give you the answer to that yet, but I will in just a minute. Now there are 2 more things that you need to do for each of these. You'll see this on the table on this activity. You're going to calculate the ratios of the 2 perimeters to the diameter. Ratio is a division problem, so we're going to divide there. And what we'll find, ultimately, the point of this activity is to take that division step that we did in the previous step, and it's going to give us an approximation of pi. So this activity is a discovery lesson on how to calculate pi. So I want to go to the table next. Now, knowing that I'm giving you the measurements of the sides of the large square, the diameter of the circle, and the side of the small square, let's go to the table that you'll see next. Now everything I'm showing you right now is just for the square because it's 4 sides. Now this sides 6, 8, and 10, that's going to apply to this next activity, activity 2. So for now, ignore the sides 6, 8, and 10. So it's asking you for a few things here. Let's go ahead and get started with the perimeter of the large shape. Now remember, I told you that the length of the side of that square was 35. And to find the perimeter of it, you would multiply by 4. So we're going to go, I'll move this over so you can see it. We're going to do 35 times 4, and that will give you the perimeter of your large. I'll write this in yellow. What did I say? I didn't say 40. 140. So 140. Oh, it's skipping. There we go. Okay. Now I gave you the diameter of the circle, so you're just going to copy that there. And we're also going to calculate the perimeter of the small square, which remember I told you the length of one side was 25. You're going to multiply it by 4 sides, and we are going to do, I'll do this one in purple. I'll erase it first. Now the perimeter of the small one is going to be 25 times 4. You should know this, but I just want to model it for you. 25 times 4. Your perimeter of that small one is going to be 100. Okay. Now this is where it's going to ask you to take the ratios of these things. So these two, forgive my handwriting here, my fancy homemade stylus is skipping. So this part here, this is calculating the ratios that they asked us in the first place. So for this one, we're going to take, the first one, we're going to take the large perimeter, which we calculated to be 140, and we are going to divide it by the diameter, which I told you was 35. Okay? Which we can do that on a calculator. Okay? So we're going to go 140 divided by 35, which is 4. Well, would you look at that? So I'm actually going to write 4 in here. I'm going to erase that, and I'm going to write 4. I calculated it to be 4. Now we're going to do the same with the small perimeter. So we're going to take the 100, which was the small perimeter. We're going to take the ratio of it to the diameter. So we're going to do 100 divided by 35. We're going to get 100 divided by 35, 2.8, we're going to round this up to 2.86. So in here, where I did the ratio, I'm going to write the answer to the ratio. And I said that it was going to be 2.86. So the ratio comes from a division problem, but go ahead and write it as the answer to a division problem. Now, the average of these two ratios is going to be where we add these two things together, and we take that answer and we divide it by 2. So average, remember, is the mean, so we're going to add those things and divide it by 2. Let me get rid of those. Okay, so I'm going to pull out my calculator, and I'm going to put in the 2.86. That was the answer for the second one. I'm going to add it to the answer to my first one, which was 4. I'm going to push equals. So I'm going to take 6.86, divide it by 2. So remember, you add them up and divide by as many as you added together, and I have 3.43. So here, maybe I'll just write it in black. What's happening here? Okay, and so I'm going to write it in black. And we said the average here was 3.43. Now we're going to do the same thing for all of these different length sides. I'm sorry, different number of sides on a shape. So we did that for the square, that was the 4 sides. Now we're going to do it for a 6-sided shape, an 8-sided shape, and a 10-sided shape. And I wrote on the next part of the video that the length of your large side of this 6-sided shape, this hexagon, that's 20 millimeters. Now for all of these, notice the diameter of your circle, the distance across, is always going to be 35 for every one of these. So that part on your chart, when you calculate the ratios, is not going to change. And I've also given you the length of each side of the small shape. So on this 6-sided one, the length of that side is 18. The length of this small one is 13. The length of this small one is 11. And I did the same with the large ones. So I told you the length of this was 20. Now the length of this is 15, and so on. So let me talk you through this chart one more time. So for the 6-sided shape, to find the perimeter, let me change colors here. Now to find the perimeter of a six-sided shape, knowing the length of one side, this is where you're going to not multiply by 4 like we did with the square, but you're going to take the length of your side, which on this first six-sided shape, the length of my side is 20. So here, I'm going to just draw an arrow for that six-sided shape. The length of my side was 20, and I'm going to multiply it now by 6 because it was a six-sided shape. So the answer that you are going to put here is going to be 20 times 6. Luckily for you, the diameter of the circle is going to be the same, for each of these. So 35, 35, 35. Your perimeters are going to change, but the process is the same. Take the length of the side, multiply it by how many sides there are. That's going to be true for the large and the small, and it's going to be true no matter how many sides you have. So for the octagon, you take the length of each side and then multiply it by 8 to tell you the perimeter. Now remember, these sections, this ratio, that's a division step for both the large and the small. And remember, this average is where you're going to add your ratios together, and then your last step is going to be to divide by 2, and you write your answers in here. So do your best with this. I know it's still kind of confusing process, but I did what I could trying to give you guys the measurements. I'm going to go ahead and post on this activity. I'm going to post the measurements on your Google Classroom. So if nothing else, you can at least see what the measurements are so you don't have to keep watching through this video. Also, I'm available all day today. So please let me know on Teams what I can help you with. All right, good luck.